Welcome to a recording from Indiana After School Network, and we are looking at STEM Next Opportunity Fund resources. My name is Ryan Stoyer with Magnify Learning. Super excited to be with you. We're going to be on this recording for about 30 minutes. As you look at the Access to STEM framework that's on the screen, you'll see why. We're going to break it up in about 10-minute chunks. The first section is increasing access. The second is youth-centric. And the third is skill development. So you can jump to whichever one you want in this recording. We'll have a little split screen in there somewhere so it'll intro each one and you can see where you want to skip to if you'd like. But what we're going to do is we are going to take some STEM Next resources along with Million Girls Moonshot, and we're going to walk you through the STEM framework to see how you can bring this great STEM framework to your program. So how do you use the resources that are provided for you to create a really great program using this framework? So as you can see on the screen, it says strategies are the broad categories within each large concept. So we've got these three large concepts. We want to increase access to our youth, so everybody has access to this great STEM learning. We want it to be youth-centric. We want there to be youth voice and choice in everything that we do, because that's what brings our youth from passive to empowered, and that's where we're trying to move them. We're also looking at skill development. There are certain skills in the STEM arena specifically that we want our youth to walk away from. So we're going to do all these things so we can create space for all learners. So some of the resources we'll be showing you are going to come from the STEM Next Opportunity Fund. They have these monthly asset packages, and when you go in here, you'll see a plethora of different resources. So what I wanted to do in this time together is I'm going to take one of these asset packages and show you how it can actually fulfill the entire framework. So I'll take this one right here, actually, Engineering Week, Reimagining the Possible. When you click on that, you'll get this Google Doc. This Google Doc is filled with tons of links that go to different resources, where there's different websites, recordings, things made by STEM Next, or things curated. Right? You'll see Million Girl Moonshot resources in here. You'll see a little bit of everything, all brought together, which is a huge time saver for you, whether you're a youth worker on the ground or you're a program director, whatever your role is in after school. The whole idea is how can we help you bring STEM to your program so that you're providing these high quality services for all learners. So what we'll do is I'm just going to grab one of these asset packs. And again, these come out every month and they're always just chock full. And I'm going to show you how it applies to this STEM framework. So I've got some notes here. I've got some things pulled up on tabs. Let's jump in and see how you can take one of these asset packages and use it to fulfill this framework. This framework is designed to bring STEM to create space for all learners, because we want to make sure that all of our learners have access to this great programming. So let's jump in. Our first section is increasing access. So how do we make sure that all of our learners have access to these great resources? So when we go into our asset package, I'm going to show you a specific section here that relates directly to this framework, and that is how do we include families and community. And you'll see here there's a whole section in the asset pack around families, and each month you'll see this is how do we connect. So I pulled out one of these connection points for families, because that's in our framework, in our rubric, if you will, and it's engaging families in mathematics education. Now, we know that math isn't everybody's favorite. There's a crazy stat out there, true stat, that some of our girls say, hey, I'm not good at math by like third grade. Like, that's not the identifier that we want. So we want them to identify themselves in these STEM fields. So M, that big math, let's jump right on that one, because that's the one that sometimes people are afraid of, especially when we bring families in. And maybe they didn't have a great experience with math or with school when they were in that portion of their life. So I really, really like this piece. So what it does is it starts to break down some barriers in math. There are some great leading questions in here that you can have with families. It talks about what were some successes that you've had in your math past. What are some failures? What are some parts of math that you don't really like? And I just think that's a really important part to just get out in front. Like, let's talk about that right now, because we know it's lingering, right? We know it's in there. And this guide will help you through that process. Like, if the idea of getting families together and then saying, hey, let's do some math, like, if that's not something that you're comfortable with, this packet will really help you do that. So that's how we're going to use this asset package. Is we're going to find something in here, and I'm going to do the work to dig in here to see what can help your program, and then see how it can relate to the framework. So in the framework, you'll see, that's a big zoom right there, but you'll see that some of the things we want to do is the community engagement piece. We want to offer community and family engagement opportunities. We know that we engage the community and we engage families, that we're engaging our youth. And we're showing them this is a place that they want to be. And that's part of opening up and increasing access for our families. You'll also see in this portion of the rubric that you have data-informed decision-making, so you want to start collecting feedback from your youth and from the families. So when you have them in your program, one of the easiest ways to collect some quick data is really an exit ticket. Like, what went well? Why do you like it here? Right? What are some things you would change? And just add some of those to the end of your day, and your youth will start giving you feedback. And you'll start to see some trends, that there are some things they like, there are some things they don't like, there's some things that help, some things that don't help. And do the same thing with families. If you ever have families in there, just a real quick 2-question survey, and you can take that data and then start to make changes within your program. And when you do that, you might ask some things. Like, this is in the section of increasing access. What would help you, get access to some of the STEM activities that we provide? And just ask the families. Sometimes it's a simple time change. Sometimes it's a simple text or an email reminder. It might just be that quick reminder that says, we really want to go to these things, but we just forget when it comes down to it because things get really busy, which is true. So a quick text might totally flip your program. So these are some of the things you want to start brainstorming, and that's really why the framework's there. So we can start to understand and seek out solutions to some of these problems. Program designs, how can you help and involve your stakeholders that represent the community and offer diverse perspectives in program design? So be intentional to engage and effectively serve all youth. So starting to bring in this, even just the language of all learners coming into our programs can really start to help. And then you can start to look for ways to bring those learners in. And here in this last one, in increasing access, is recruit, retain staff who are representative of the community, ensure that all youth have access to programming, ensure all youth feel welcome. Again, just having this conversation with your staff, maybe take one of these sections each week or each month even. Like, hey, let's make sure we're super welcoming this week or this month. Like, make sure you greet every youth as they come in. I know you're busy, you're preparing, but greet them, shake their hands, give them a high five, give them a pound, make sure they feel welcome. But let me give you a resource here that really dives into this idea of increasing access. This is a larger holistic idea of brokering youth pathways. And what I like about this is you're starting to bring in larger program design ideas of pathways to bring all learners into your program. And it's a toolkit. I love toolkits. I love toolkits because you can go into a toolkit and see what it is that you can use and what fits your program. It's not just one activity or one thing that you look at it and say, well, that doesn't fit me, and you toss it to the side. A toolkit has something in there for everybody. And you don't have to use everything, but you'll want to use some things. So this is in this asset package, right? You'll see that it's for February, but I really look at the topic, right? Engineering Week, introduce a girl to engineering. If you look at that topic, it will show you what the main emphasis or the theme is for that asset package. So we're using this asset package to fulfill the framework. And when we do that, you're going to see that for this one, our big idea is increasing access. So you've got the math and families that can help bring people in. Once you bring them in, you're going to ask them, how can we best help you with on-ramps to make things easier for you to engage? And then on a systemic level, program level, you're going to look at brokering youth pathways. How can you start to bring specific youth into your program to make sure that you're serving all learners? And that is going to wrap our first section on increasing access. Our next section is going to be youth-centric. When we look at youth-centric, we're looking at youth voice and choice. We're looking at a program that is moving our learners, our youth, from passive to empowered. We don't want them to just sit there, do homework, get a snack, and then have them. We don't want to just talk at them, right? And say, hey, here's STEM. This is what science is. Okay, have a good time. We want them to be involved. We want them to be engaged in that process. So let's look at what some of those resources are. And we're going to pull them right from this asset package. And you can look at every one of these asset packages. They're really set up very similar, and there's a lot of different links to them. So some of the things that I've pulled out is this one right here, 30 active math games and activities for kids who love to move. So here you go. You've got 30 different activities. You can pick the ones that are going to fit you. It's going to be math. It's going to be outdoors. It's going to be indoors. It's going to be active. And watch how this all fits together. Now this comes from this asset package. I didn't just pull that from a website. That's one of my favorites. I went down here, and in every asset package, it says activities for programs. If you're a youth worker, boots on the ground, or if you're a program director and you want to have different activities for your youth workers, this is it. There's a whole series of them. So I pulled this one right here, 30 active math activities, and here's why. Let's go back to the framework. The framework of being youth-centric, strategies that build on specific strengths, needs, and challenges of youth. I looked at this one right here on peer support. Encourage positive peer connections. When I hear that, we want our learners working together. We want them to be active together and learning together. So when I look at the asset package and I say there's 30 different math activities that keep us active, could be outdoors, could be indoors, but we're moving around and interacting together, that's a chance for your youth to work together, to have those positive peer connections, because they're trying to achieve this math goal together, right? So that's how we're going to use these frameworks and these different resources and how they all work together. The other thing I might suggest right here in the peer support, and this is just an extra for you, it's not in the asset package, but a group contract. When you have youth working together, if you can find a youth contract, you go to Google and put in group contracts. If you put in project-based learning, you'll find some great ones. But now you've got youth working together in a specific framework, and you'll see that things get a lot better. The other thing that we're going to look as we're being youth-centric is positive youth development. How do we elevate youth voice and choice? Now, you're going to see that these connect and overlap a lot. Eventually, as you get this framework built into your program, it's just going to be what you do. This is the culture of your program. Look, we're just going to head straight over here, back to the one that we were looking at. Remember, we're going to collect data. We're just going to ask youth, what's going well? What can we improve on? Right there, you're going to elevate youth voice and choice. I'd highly recommend that when you say, what's something we can improve on, the very next day or as soon as you can, take one of their suggestions. Not all of them, but take one of them and implement that and say, hey, you said it would be better if we did this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to flip it. We're going to do exactly what you asked us to do because we want you to be a part of this program. And once you start to acknowledge their voice as being an important part of the program, you'll see their voice come up more often. You start to elevate that voice and make it important, and you'll hear their voice. They'll become more empowered, and they'll help your program move forward. That's part of the idea of becoming youth-centric. The other thing we really want to do is we want to create things that are relevant for our learners. So to do that, we need to add context. I like that around project-based learning, that you bring in community partners specifically. So if you're going to bring in STEM, and let's say that you're going to do a common STEM activity could be, let's say, food insecurity. We saw that in a great program and all the different grade levels had a different part in food insecurity. The K1s were looking at what should go in the food pantry and what would be most beneficial. 5-6 was creating posters, and 7-8 was really advocating. And the high schoolers had some really awesome thoughts on the theoretical idea of food insecurity and why is it there. So who do you bring in? Well, this group brought in someone from the YMCA that talked about nutrition on a regular basis. And they came in and talked about how important it is to have nutritious things in a food pantry. So bringing this outside partner to make sure and ensure in the learners that this is really a relevant topic, that people are tackling this problem every day and the youth are going to help, all that extra context adds to relevance, and it really makes a great youth-centric piece. The last portion of youth-centric on the framework is supportive relationships. So you're going to, again, make those community and family connections. See how they overlap? They're going to keep overlapping. Provide opportunities to interact with and learn from diverse STEM role models. Now this is one where we're going to go right back to our asset package. And every asset package has this, which I absolutely love, because we know that there's great research that says when our youth interact with people in STEM fields, that they can now see themselves in that STEM field, right? So it's not like a but it's a boop. Like they're like, wait a minute. If Rebecca came in, or Aisha in this case, if Aisha can be an electrical engineer, maybe I can be too. And you can start to, again, this is going to overlap, but if you're looking at also increasing access, this is another great way to bring in role models, STEM role models, that are just like your youth, right? So they can see themselves in these fields. So what does it look like? It looks like these really great, very well done, professionally done videos of engineers, scientists, rocket scientists, astrophysicists that could look just like your youth. So you can click on here, and these are 3 to 5 minute videos that, again, are very well done, that introduce your youth to STEM engineers. So when we look on our rubric, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring some STEM role models into your program. So the asset package lets you do that right away. And once you start to do that, you can start to look around and see if you have some STEM role models in your community. And you start to bring those role models in. And then they can see them in person. And they know how to interact with them at that point, because they've had some interactions, if you will, virtually through these role models in the asset package. So I really, really appreciate the work that's been done there in the If-Then series. And the basic idea is that if Aisha can do this, then your youth can do it as well. And that's the whole idea. Isn't that such a neat idea? It's such a neat idea to bring these role models in, and you can do it virtually. So it's a great way to kind of dip your toe into this idea of bring role models and community partners into your youth program. So that shores up our second section of the STEM framework, youth-centric. So you want your program to be youth-centric. Youth are at the center of all the decisions that you're making, and you need to bring them into the fold. Bring them into the decision-making, ask them what's important to them, and then start to act on those things. And as you do, they'll move from passive to inspired to engaged. Our next section is going to be skill development. Skill development. So let me zoom out for just a second and show you the whole thing. So here's our whole framework. Access to STEM, a framework. Creating space for all learners. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to increase access so that all of our learners are engaged in STEM and STEM activities. Not just a subset. Well, this subset can handle it. Or, these kids over here, they need more homework because they're really struggling. Research actually shows that those struggling learners in math and language arts, they actually need this STEM work, this access to STEM, so they know why they should be doing the math and the language arts, the literacy pieces. So don't leave them out. We want to increase access to all the STEM activities. We're going to make them youth-centric, meaning we're going to make sure that it's not just Ryan the engineer that's excited to talk at somebody. It's that it's relevant for our youth, and that they're at the center of all the work that we're doing. And in this last section, we're going to make sure that we're doing skill development, and our asset package is going to knock this out of the park with all of the different activities that they have that you can do that are STEM focused. So if this is a place that you want to be at, this asset package is really going to knock it out of the park for you. So let's get back in there, because I want to help you, I want to train you, I want to show you where you can get these things out of any asset package that comes along. Activities for programs. If you're looking for skill development, this is a great place to be. If you're looking for activities that you can use today, tomorrow, next week, ones that last for a week or a month or a couple days, they're really well laid out. So let's take a look. One that I pulled out here, again, they're going to overlap because this is youth-centric, but it's also skills development. So it's called the STEM Educators Academy Activity Toolkit. Again, I love toolkits because you might like one tool and not the other. That's fine. Reach right past one of the tools and go for the one that fits your program. When you click on here, any one of these, the good old spaghetti and marshmallow, always great. It's got a ton of youth voice and choice, easy to do, easy to set up. You click on it and you get a lesson plan that walks you right through it. It's going to give you the supplies. It's going to give you how long does it take. It's going to walk you through how you do it. So as soon as you get that, you are ready to run, and you can choose from any one of these. Right? So that's what you're looking for in this asset package. That's one of the things you're looking for in skills development, is how do we start to build those STEM skills. You see how it's going to overlap again? Here in connected pathways, even in skill development, because we want context for our learners, you're still going to be looking at STEM role models. So the third bullet point, provide exposure to relatable STEM role models who have experienced diverse career pathways. Now you're hitting both of those markers in the framework with the one set of if-then role models. So if all of this is beginning to seem overwhelming, right, with 3 big sections of the framework and 4 in each of those, know that some of your resources are hitting multiple areas, right, which is why the asset package can be so powerful for you. So when you look at curriculum, you want to be choosy. You want to start looking at what is it that's fostering an engineering mindset. What is it that's helping to create the learning environment, not just what you do? It has that voice and choice that lets us hit the youth-centric along with the skills development. And you're going to see that, and again, these resources. So this is going to come from the asset package. It's going to be one of these activities, toolkits, websites. I pulled out another one for you. And this is the Festival of Bubbles, which just sounds awesome. But it's also steeped in STEM. And again, why I like it is it's going to tell you how long, the materials you need, the preparation, what to do. So I put this in like a 5-minute resource. You're going to need 5 minutes to walk through this to see if you want to do it. And then you're going to see that it's, again, steeped in STEM. It's got the engagement. It's got the youth voice. What else do we need in skills development? Well, guess what? We need to improve your skill set as a youth worker, right? We all need to be lifelong learners, so that professional development is a key portion. That when we build your skill set, we know it's going to improve the outcomes for your youth. So we want to provide professional development opportunities for you that are STEM-based and they're personally relevant to you and your youth. So there's a lot of Million Girl Moonshot professional development offerings out there. You've got the role model pieces, and when you're watching those, you can be inspired. But I went ahead and pulled out this professional development guide, and wherever you need a brush up or wherever you think you want to go with your program, you can get one of these guides and it'll walk you through that. So it's for program directors, site coordinators, and others who might lead after-school staff development. So you can take your professional development through math, technology, art, or literacy in after school. So do you see that? These are really important. In after school after each one. So it's specifically designed for you in youth development after school work. So you don't have to adjust it for anything, right? You don't have, I'm sure you've done that a lot when you go to a conference. Great information. Now you have to adjust it to what you do. Well, these professional development guides and these asset packages are designed specifically for you in after school, which is why they're so fantastic. Now, once you've done all this last section of 21st century skills, you're really going to be, if you've done the other sections, you're going to be doing this 21st century skill portion as well. So you're going to be providing opportunities for youth to collaborate and develop collaboration skills. You're going to ask open-ended questions to help youth critically think and deepen their understanding. These are things that are built into these activities that I just showed you. So when you click on any one of these, there's a ton of open-ended questions. So when you look at the STEM framework, I don't want you to get overwhelmed by it because there's so much on here. They're all going to interconnect and intertwine. When you're doing one, you're likely doing one or two other boxes on this framework. You're going to facilitate the development of a growth mindset. That's going to be happening throughout. So when we look at access to STEM, a framework, creating space for all learners, we want all of our learners to be looking at STEM. Because there are pieces in there, whatever their desired outcome is, whatever the next step is in their journey, there's portions in here that they are going to need. They're going to want to be able to interact with STEM role models and look at them and say, yes, I can do that. Look at that and say, why not me? Why wouldn't I do that? If Aisha can do it, I can do it. We want them to be thinking critically, because then when they go on to their next stage, they're thinking about what it is they're doing. Whether they're in school, after school, out of school, wherever that is, we want them to be problem solvers. We want them to be thinking critically. We want them to be creative. We want them to know who they are so that they can shine and do what they were made to do. And when you start to get into this framework, you'll see that it will guide you down that path. So you've got this framework. We're going to have a PDF that will have this framework, and all of the resources that I mentioned will be listed in there. And you'll see now when an asset package comes your way, now hopefully you can walk through that and begin to pull out what fits your specific program. Whether it's an activity, whether it's a role model piece, maybe it's a professional development that you're looking to fill, all of those pieces will fit this access to STEM and this framework. When you increase access, when you become youth-centric, when you're developing those skills, you're really going to have a program that is addressing the needs of the whole learner, not just one section of that learner. And undoubtedly, you're already doing some of these things. So hopefully when you look at this framework, you say, yeah, we're doing this really well, and we could use some help here. So when you look at that asset package, you can do exactly that. Like, you're not going to walk through and do every one of those, but you're going to say, what is it that would improve our program? How can we improve what we're already doing? We're doing great things. We're passionate about helping youth. Now what can we do to go to the next level to make sure everybody has access, everybody's empowered, and they're developing these skills? Well, I hope that this video has helped you see how the access to STEM, this framework, works. In the 3 different indices that it has, and then how you can look at an asset package to walk through this so that you can improve your program to do that. Again, this is developed by the STEM Next Opportunity Fund, Million Girls Moonshot, and is brought to you by the Indiana After School Network. I hope that all of these resources can help you right where your program is and help improve you right away.